Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host Bryan. We're going to continue on and hit up the penultimate track for this week's theme of post-metal exploration, checking out the subgenre of metal, post-metal. We're going to be looking at the band Oathbreaker today, and we're going to be checking out the song Being Able to Feel Nothing, which actually comes from the album Raya. I think that's how that's pronounced. We've checked out something off of this album before, I believe. And Oathbreaker has been fairly consistent for me at just being very evocative music. So, I'm kind of excited to get into this. Let's dive in then. Oathbreaker, Being Able to Feel Nothing. Oh, the clean vocals on top is a nice touch. That's a fun little idea. It's sort of like kind of swung eighth notes against the aggressive 16th notes from the blast beats. A lot of time field manipulation on this. Speeding up of sections, dragging them back. I don't think there's a... Oh, okay. Yeah. There is interesting metric stuff going on with that dun 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 dun. That'd be a triplet every 8 bars of the chorus. That 1 2 3 1 2 3 1. Yeah. About 55 BPMs. That's pretty close. That's less than 1 beat per second. I do like their harmonic work though. Even in the past metal sections, they explored some cool chords. Nice dynamics here. Subtle breaking in the vocals. Finishing up the vocal melody and bringing this moving guitar line underneath it. Alright. This song is wickedly fractured, and I think that's probably what they're going for. We've only listened like 2 other songs from Oathbreaker, so I'm not sure if this is just their style or if this is a stylistic thing for this track in particular, but they're not ever happy about staying on one idea for very long. There's usually some sort of metric thing, a rhythmic thing, a temporal thing. Something changes constantly in this song. And I talked about this early in the reaction. I brought up how there's just a, this ever fluctuating time feel, and they do a really great job of rushing the song forward and pulling it back. We also have that triplet feel that we had in the what I thought was a chorus, but I'm not so sure anymore. It's felt very linear by the end of the track. That definitely felt like a chorus. If they were going to have one, that's probably what they would have revisited, but I don't think they revisited anything in this, at least not musically. It seemed to always be going forward. There were some lyrical phrases, I think, that got repeated, but that would be lyrical structure, not musical. And those, it's always cool to see a structure in 2 different angles there and how they might have different repeating ideas and stuff. But from a musical standpoint, I'm pretty sure this is totally linear. And where was I going with that? Oh yeah, do time feel and stuff. It's yeah, we had that triple thing in the chorus. There's where I deviated from my train of thought. And even that manipulated time even further as we would go into that slower triplet feel and then even pull that a bit slower by going towards quarter notes and really emphasizing these slower quarter notes against it and having this constant slowing down feeling without actually changing the tempo at all. And we see a lot of that in here. I'd love to go through this and probably with stems. That would probably be the easiest way, and do it in a workstation. See how much of this I could fit all within the same times of tempo without changing that. Because as far as I can tell, there's a lot of breaking up the tempo into groups of 3, which would imply a shorter triplet feel, or breaking it up into groups of 2, which would be just cutting the tempo in half, which is a halftime feel. You don't need to change the tempo to indicate halftime on sheet music, especially for the way that they use it, where we move to something that feels half as fast for a couple of bars and then return back up to speed. While this song feels like it is constantly in flux as far as tempo and speed is concerned, I'd wager there actually isn't that many tempo changes in it. And so, like I said, I'd love to get my hands on, well, sheet music would be nice too. It would be, it'd be in there. But, if there is no sheet music to get the stems for this and see how well it lines up if I just keep a static tempo throughout. But regardless if they are literally changing tempo or not, much like time signature, it's more of a way of indicating intention from the composer to the performer. On sheet music, what's played ends up sounding identically regardless of any of those notations that would be put down. I just want to put across that they have a lot of fluctuation on this track. It is never sure of what it wants to do, and I find that... I don't know how I find that. I find it evocative, for sure. It paints a very strong picture alongside the vocal performance because, well, I mean, let's be honest, the vocal performance is just as fractured. I don't think I've ever heard this vocalist, and I don't know if this is the same vocalist as Son of R. Is that the other track we checked out from them? And I think we did a live stream song, but I can't remember the name of that. Anyways, I don't think I've ever heard Oathbreaker with clean vocals, is what I'm getting at here. So I don't have anything to compare these to within the framework of Oathbreaker. But there is some unique inflections that the vocalist uses while singing. And a lot of it is to create these very sharp points. I don't know if it's a tightening up, a restriction of vocal muscles or anything like that. I mean, as usual, I'm not a vocal coach. I'm trying to interpret what I heard into what I know about making sounds with the voice, which, I mean, honestly isn't a lot. But the vocalist here tends to get kind of squeaky in a lot of places. And again, this is sort of like taking a pitch and like compressing it down and hyper focusing it into like a super narrow sound. And it allows them to sort of hit a note and either like hit this squeaky version of it. Squeaky might be the wrong word, but it's really high pitched. And then allow the voice to crack and come back down to a more natural range for that tone. Or they'll hit a note and rise up into another one. And then kind of use that as like a hairpin to come back down to the note that they want. As these interesting little, they're not grace notes, they're like transition notes. But instead of it being in the middle of the two notes, it's like way up here and then it dips down. It's kind of wild. It's a wonderful delivery. I don't have anything negative to say about it. And I think from a performative side, it works really well within the context of what I think the artistic intention is on this track. But it is unique. I don't hear this type of vocal performance very often. And I did want to highlight it a little bit. But here's the other thing, right? The voice cracking and allowing I don't know what the technical element of voice crack is. It's like the point between your chest and head voice. And if you you can gloss over it and kind of get like a cool little slide, but if you really lean into it and allow it to happen, you kind of get like that awkward teenage going through hormones kind of thing, going through puberty. Yeah, that's where that kind of tone comes from. And there are a lot of vocalists who harness that crack very well. And here I think is one of them. Because as the song goes on, she leans more into that area of her voice and allows it to shine through in ways that makes the vocal delivery sound like it's becoming less and less controlled. It's becoming more unhinged. And I really noticed this right after the midsection, when kind of dip the energy down, kind of get a bit more introspective. Right after this, the guitar and drums punch back in, and she has 2 bars, I think, of escalating intensity before, moving into her fry scream that she does for the remainder of the track. Those 2 bars of escalating intensity is really leaning into this vocal crack and allow it to sound like this person is right on the verge of tears. There is no control, or it's the perception of this person losing control of their voice, and just whatever their emotions force their muscles to do is what happens. Now, I think there is total control in here. It is all performative, but the end result is that it feels like this, and it is phenomenal acting as far as I'm concerned to inject this emotion into it. And maybe it's not acting. Maybe she literally started to have an emotional breakdown at this moment. I don't know. But it's, like I said, it's very effective at presenting this person who is fractured, who continues to have less and less control over how they present themselves until it erupts into just screaming. And the song being as rhythmically fractured as it is, not really being able to form a cohesive idea of time, I think works really well with this. It allows both performances to feel incomplete. I have no idea what the song is about. It's called Being Able to Feel Nothing. You're usually not in a good state of mind when you're completely numb to your emotions. So maybe that ties into all of it too, but I did want to really focus on that. To me, it's what elevates this song above its peers. Because when we talk about the instrumental side of things, it's, there's some cool metric stuff in here. We already talked about all of that. There's some really neat guitar riffs, if we can call them that. A lot of it is harmonic, focusing on chord progression and atmosphere. A lot of it is tone and production of the bass, the guitars. The drums are kind of all over the place. That's where a lot of our metric manipulation comes from. But overall, it's a pretty straightforward post-metal collection of sounds. A lot of focus on atmosphere and chords, chord shaping, and they do a great job of building this tense, eerie atmosphere throughout, which actually isn't too different from what we checked out yesterday with Chaodot building a tense, eerie atmosphere. And also Russian Circles building a tense, eerie. Post-metal really likes their tense, eerie atmospheres. That's probably not all the genre has to offer. I'm kind of drawing a blank on something else. Maybe we really needed this. Maybe we need a 3rd week of post-metal and dive into some stuff that isn't eerie and unsettling. If it exists out there. But to me, the 2 standouts on this are the vocals and the metric stuff. But that's not to say that there's nothing to talk about at all with the instrumental stuff. There's also a lot of dynamic elements in here. Just as dynamic as the vocals were, we see quite a bit of dynamic work with the guitars and drums as well. Particularly the middle section, which dips the volume down quite a bit. And what I like about this section is that almost every other part of the song is just full volume. I think I pointed it out over there. I said, look at those volume bars. And they're flat. They're static. These guys hit max volume and leave no space. They just completely fill the sound sphere. I mean, not unlike other post-metal bands. But when we dip down into that middle section there, it isn't just about finding a new max volume. There's a lot of room in, when you watch the volume gauge, it's moving. There's all sorts of ranges of volume there. We have all sorts of different attacks coming out of the drums. We have a new lightness in the guitar picking. It's about, bringing that contrast to the song. It's not super contrasty as a song. I mean, it still ends up going for the wall of sound, which is a post-metal staple, and that's kind of a single dynamic that you want. And so, from that perspective, the heavier sections aren't very dynamic at all, but that's the style of the music too. But I like how they take a moment to bring it down a little bit, and that allows the build up into the final section to feel as affecting as it is. It's also the dynamics of the vocals there at the end moving into the screams that really puts all that emotive element in the final couple of minutes of this track. I think that was it. Let me hit some lyrics on this, and we're going to wrap this one up. I think this song is about combating inner turmoil. It says, my blood, my flesh, my veins, play with me. My bones, my beast, play with me. There's a starving beast inside my chest, playing with me until he's bored. Then slowly burying his tusks in my flesh, crawling his way out, he rips open old wounds. It says, when I reach for the knife placed on the bedside table, its blade reflects my determined face to plant it in my chest. So there's a subversion here. Either that, or the beast that she wants to stab is her, which goes into the inner turmoil thing. It says, I'd like to plant it in my chest and carve a hole so deep it snaps my veins, hollow me out, I want to feel empty. That's pretty much the gist of the song, is that there's this pain within. She figuratively speaks about it as a beast, and she just wants to get rid of it. It brings nothing but pain to her, and she'd rather feel nothing than feel what it causes her to. And we see this in the final stanza. It says, dripping all over the floor, I would drag myself outside. As I open the front door, the sun captures my weary face. The weight comes off when I let go. It's so strange being able to feel nothing. So I believe at this point, they're dead. It says that the weight comes off of them as they let go. They stop clinging on to life, and they begin to feel nothing. And this was what they wanted this whole time. So I think that's what the song's about then. Depression or any sort of overbearing emotional weight that you just can't get rid of. And deciding that feeling nothing is better than that. And it does, I think, make those cracks in her voice towards the end of the song as she shifts into that fry scream even more affecting. This is just, it's somebody at their lowest point. I think the vocalist does a fantastic job of capturing that energy, the desperation by the end of the song. Yeah. I do want to make a quick note, though, before I go into my outro spiel. Having spoken about Second Son of R, I went and listened to it again, because it'd been years, and I remember that song being really great. It still is, yeah. But the first part of that Audio Tree live concert, or footage, whatever it is, contained a song called 1056. And the majority of 1056 and I think half of Second Son of R is clean vocals that sound a lot like the clean vocals we just listened to in this song. So I don't know why I didn't remember those. But yeah, pretty sure it's the same vocalist, and this isn't the first time I've heard clean vocals in Oathbreaker. So hopefully I filed that away in, my filing cabinet for Oathbreaker properly this time. Mental filing cabinet, by the way. I don't keep a physical file on all these bands. I would not have enough room for that. We've listened to too many. Anyways, those are my thoughts. Oathbreakers being able to feel nothing. What did you think of this track? Is there anything that stood out to you? Anything that you would like to add on to what I said or correct me on? Maybe just give your own thoughts, opinions, and perspective on it. I'm always down to check that out too. Put all that stuff down in the comments section. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. Takes you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. That wraps it up for this one. I'll be back. Well, I have another video today, if you're interested in that. Otherwise, though, I will be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.